Hello everyone, as promised in this video we are going to start our chronological overview of the crash and retrieval events related to UFOs, UAPs. We will try to verify their veracity and see which countries may be in possession of such priceless artifacts and technologies, possibly of non-human origin. The first well-described and attested case in which a possible UFO crashed down to Earth dates back to quite some time ago. The main event we are going to talk about today took place in the state of Bavaria in southern Germany back in 1561. It is widely known as the celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. The event itself has been preserved for posterity by a guy named Hans Glaser, a printer, woodcut tinter and a publisher who made a broadsheet, which is namely a single-sided print. In this case it measures 26 by 38 centimeters or 10.3 by 15 inches. It is an illustration presenting a sun and a myriad of objects of various shapes, from orbs through rods, cross-like or crossed barbell objects, as well as what looks a bit like a giant star destroyer, not unlike the giant ships we have seen in the Star Wars series. The document itself is archived in the Central Library in Zurich in Switzerland. As we can read in the document, the event took place around dawn on 14th of April 1561 and was witnessed by many people. The citizens of the city of Nuremberg apparently watched what was described as a battle out of the sun, after which a large triangular object appeared and seemed to cause fighting spherical objects to fall out of the sky and down to earth, covered in smoke. The number of objects reported by the witnesses was in hundreds, and curiously enough, the document explicitly mentions that the objects move erratically overhead. This would be at least one of the famous 5 observables describing what we today classify as unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UFOs. And since the document clearly mentions that the objects fell from the sky, we can technically speak about the oldest potential and attested crash of a UFO. The document includes a description of objects which we already described above. In addition, some of the objects in the shape of the cross seem to have small spherical termini at the end of the crossbars, and some of the cylindrical objects also released smaller spherical objects, a feature still sometimes observed today during UFO sightings. One more of the describable objects allegedly looked like a crescent as well. The broadsheet provides a detailed description of what seems like a battle in the sky taking place between 4 and 5 a.m. in the morning, so at, if not before dawn at this time of the year. The description is actually extremely detailed, and while it lacks the technical vocabulary we could probably use today, it is way too vivid and specific to be a simple conjuration of imagination of the author. If read, it genuinely feels like a 16th century press report, which seems to be thus as verified as it can possibly be given the time period between today and the event itself. Obviously, since people in the 16th century were generally much more religious than the average for Europe today, the rare reference to the event being possible signs in the heavens sent from and by God to people. Given the mindset of the times it was perceived as a warning. The broadsheet was brought to limelight by the famous psychologist Carl Gustav Jung, who mentioned it in his 1958 book titled Flying Saucers, a modern myth of things seen in the sky. Jung expressed his opinion according to which the phenomenon was natural, and the described religious and military tones were just attributions of the onlookers who tried to make sense of what happened. Skeptics also sometimes invoke the so-called sundog phenomenon, or a mock sun, an optical phenomenon which creates the illusion of the sun being surrounded by additional smaller suns flanking our home star. Then again, the broadsheet clearly describes the objects moving erratically and falling down to earth. We can only guess how far from the actual onlookers did the event in the sky took place. Assuming here we have a description of a genuine UAP activity, possibly a fight even, it would be impossible to tell where the potential downcraft could have fallen, as no approximate distances could be inferred from the description, even if the graphical imprint itself indicates a crash site somewhere in the local area. This leads to a simple and logical conclusion that no attempts of retrieving the objects or their debris was made at that time, and no extant material evidence exists anywhere that would suggest that anything like that was done. Curiously enough, the Nuremberg event was not one of its kind in this period. Another similar event took place 5 years later in 1566, this time over the city of Basel in Switzerland. We again have a description of the situation left for posterity in a Flugblatt, which could be considered a crossover between a pamphlet and an early form of a newspaper. We have an illustration depicting the event and its description in this case as well. According to the document prepared by one historian, Samuel Kokius, there were two such events, on 27th and 28th of July and 7 August, making it 3 phenomena in total. The first was an unusual sunrise, the second involved a total lunar eclipse with a red sun rising, and the third one describes a cloud of black spheres parading in front of the sun. During the first event, the sun allegedly lost its shine and luminosity and resembled more like a full moon with blood tears dropping from it and the sky going dark behind the sun. On the next day at the sunrise, the sun looked identical as the night before. The entire area was bathed in blood-red radiance. At the dawn of August the 7th, the aforementioned spheres moved at great speed and precision and, verbatim, chattered as if they led a fight. Many of those objects were glowing red and allegedly crumbled and indistinguished. This description, especially the last of the three events, sounds similar enough to the one from 5 years prior in Germany. Again, skeptics propose natural explanations, and quite frankly the first two of the three Swiss events may have been exactly that. The third one, however, indicates possible anomalous phenomena and their involvement. If we indeed assume that both events included UAP involvement, and especially one of non-human intelligence, we arrive at unusual conclusions. Not only we have what seems to be one of the, if not the earliest description of UFOs crashing, but we may consider a possibility of an actual UFO battle taking place over Europe during the Renaissance. If true, it begs the question, did two opposed non-human intelligences clash in our skies? And if they did, again, why? Was the Earth just an accidental witness to battles raging overhead? Did the two different forces wrestle for control over our skies? Personally, I believe that both these situations may have indeed involved genuine UFOs or UAPs, whatever we wish to call them. As to the described battles, I honestly have zero clue if those actually happened. While I have no reason to disbelieve the accounts any more than I would with contemporary accounts, we should always consider the fact that the context of the time was vastly different, even if only to consider the fact that 450 years ago humanity had no means of flight, even hot air balloons. This, combined with the religious overtones, makes interpretation more difficult. And what do you think, dear viewers? Do you think people saw a battle of UFOs, or maybe it was just a dance of light in the skies? Let me know in the comment section below. In the next video we are going to take a look at the first possible UFO crash in modern times, dated back to 1897. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you again very soon indeed. Take care.